All right, welcome everybody. Let's do this. Let's review from yesterday. We had that idea of height. How do you calculate the height of any degree or any point on the circle? You take a point on the circle and you bring it down to the x-axis, right? So that's what we did yesterday. We just took the height for every single degree all around the circle from 0 to 360. So that was yesterday. What's the game plan for today? Yesterday was height. Today we're going to do CoHeight. And what does CoHeight mean? We'll figure that out very soon. So what I'd like you to do first is, let's have this in our notes. There's a little something that we need to write down. It is not too bad. So let me actually zoom this in. Okie dokie. So notes number 1. Let's take a look at this. Yesterday, that idea of height, what did we do? We went up and down. The idea of CoHeight, we're going to go left and right. So, for example, let's take a look at our picture over here. If I wanted to take the height of 15, what did we do? We took this at 15 and we brought the line down to the x-axis. The idea with CoHeight is, where did I put the, oh, okay, sorry. The idea with CoHeight is we're going to go left and right. So from here, at 15 degrees, we don't go down to the x-axis. What are we going to do? We're going to go left to the, let's do this here. We're going to go left to the, oh God, that didn't actually write. We're going to go left to the y-axis, and we're going to calculate this distance here. So we missed one. Let's do for 0 degrees. What would be the CoHeight of 0 degrees? Well, I just take my ruler and I'm going to draw a line from 0 degrees to the y-axis over here, and then we're going to calculate this measurement. So let's see, how many centimeters is it? This will be about 8.5 centimeters. Okay, so then what we're going to do over here is we're going to go to our diagram from yesterday, and yesterday we only did height, correct? Now we're going to do CoHeight. So the idea here is, what is the distance for, what is the CoHeight of 0 degrees? The CoHeight, we just measured it, was 8.5 centimeters. Okay, what about the CoHeight for 15 degrees? It was the distance from here to here. So now we measured that at about, wait, I'm bugging. Wait, this is, oh, I'm sorry. This should be 9 centimeters. Sorry, this is 9 centimeters, and this is 8.5 centimeters. Okay. So then that's the idea for CoHeight. We're just gonna go around the whole unit circle. I'm sorry, not the unit circle. We're just gonna go around the whole circle, and we're just gonna find the CoHeight of every single degree, and we're gonna calculate the measurements for each and every single one of them. Okay, and notice here, what do you think? Let's take a look here. What will be, so we did it for 15 degrees. Let's do it for 30 degrees. What is the measurement for 30 degrees? And the idea is, if you want, you could do this at home, right? We talked about getting a piece of paper, making a circle. All you need is a ruler. Okay, so let's see. What is the CoHeight of 30 degrees? It's about 8 centimeters. So let's write 8 centimeters over here. Okay. Now, what about over here? What about 45 degrees? This looks like it's about 7 centimeters. So let's do 7 centimeters here. What about for 60 degrees? It's about, let's say, 5 centimeters over here. Okay, what about 75 degrees? It's about 3 centimeters. And now let's think about this question. What's the CoHeight of 90 degrees? Notice 90 degrees is on the y-axis. So what is this CoHeight over here? This CoHeight will be 0 centimeters, because degree, this 90 degrees is on the y-axis, so there is no distance. Okay? Now, one thing we need to review from yesterday. Do you remember how from yesterday we had the height? Let's take a look over here. Do you remember that the height from yesterday, let me zoom out. Remember how we talked about from 0 to 180 degrees, all of our measurements were positive. But then when we went from 180 to 360, the measurements were negative. Okay? Try and go back to your notes and see why was it positive from here to here and negative from here to here for the height. Okay? Now let's have this in our notes very quickly, because before we continue on, this will be very important. Here, let's zoom in on this, and okay. So this is height is up and down, CoHeight will be left and right. Now, think that the height will take all the y values and the CoHeight will take all the x values. So please have this in your notes. Right? Now what's the next thing? Let's imagine we have these points A, B, C, and D, right? What do you know about, let me zoom out a little bit. What do you know about the point A? Let me get a better camera angle. Okay. What do you know about point A? If you think about the x value for point A, what has to be true? What do you know has to also be true for the y value of point A? So why don't you pause the video and think about it, right? What has to be true? This value has to be positive, and this value also has to be positive, okay? Because let's say, what's a point that exists over here? Like let's say if you had 3, 3. 3, 3 can exist over here because you know all your x values are positive and all your y values are positive here. What about point B? What do you know about point B for the x value? And what do you know about point B for the y value? Okay? And if something maybe to help you, like let's say if this was 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is what? 1, 2, 3. What's over here? -1, -2, -3. What about here? -1, -2, -3, right? So what do you know about the x value for B? You don't know what the exact number is, but you know it has to be negative. What about the y value for B? This has to be positive. Okay? What I want you to do is, what's the next 2 questions I'm going to ask you? What do you know about the x value for C and the y value for C? And the same question for letter D. Okay? Pause the video and try and answer this yourself. Okay? So you know that this has to be negative, and this has to be negative, and this has to be positive, and this has to be negative. Okay? If you feel like you're confused on why, just ask it in the group chat, okay? And we'll definitely talk about it. So now, over here, from yesterday, what did you notice? Which degrees from yesterday was the height positive? And for what degrees was the height negative? Okay? This is from yesterday. So we noticed that, try and answer this question, when was the height positive from 0 to 180? And the question is, why? Because remember, for here, by definition, our height values are the y values. When is y positive? Y is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. When is height negative? When are the y values negative? They are negative in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Okay? Now, what do you think is going to happen over here? Because you remember how in this part over here we had our height values were positive from 0 to 180? You see how all these values are positive? and then all these values were negative. What do you think will happen with the CoHeight? For which degrees will the CoHeight be positive, and for which degrees will the CoHeight be negative? Okay, try and think about that before you kind of continue on. Okay, so let's take a look. Here, where you know over here, your CoHeight over here will be what? This will have to be positive because the x values are positive over here. What about when you get to quadrant 2? Will the CoHeight be positive or negative? This has to be negative. What about over here in quadrant 3? This will also be negative because the x values over here are negative and the x values over here are positive. Okay, so notice that these distances, we had a positive CoHeight over here. So now, once we get to 105 degrees, I'm not saying that the distance is negative. I'm saying that the CoHeight, whatever the value of this is, will be negative. Okie dokie. So let's take a look here. How can we actually continue? Now that we know these measurements, it's kind of similar from yesterday. Here, whatever the CoHeight of 75 is, it has to be the same as 105. These two distances have to be equal to each other if the circle was perfect. So what did we get for 75? It was, for 75, we got 3 centimeters. So notice, this isn't just 3 centimeters, it's negative 3 centimeters because we have to take in consideration that the x values over here are negative. Try and fill out the rest. What do you think will happen if you fill out the rest? Knowing these numbers, try and fill out the rest. So let's see. If you have 120 degrees, okay, that was very bad. But if you have 120 degrees, the CoHeight of 120 has to be the same as the CoHeight of 60. So what is the CoHeight of 60? It's 5 centimeters, so then this has to be negative 5 centimeters. What will it be over here? This is negative 7 centimeters. This is negative 8 centimeters, negative 8.5 centimeters, negative 9 centimeters. Okay? When you actually fill out the chart, because for 135, it'll be the same as 45. The CoHeight of 150 will be the same as the CoHeight of 30. The CoHeight of 165 is the same CoHeight as 15. And the CoHeight of 180 will be the same as 0. Okay? But just like one is negative and the other one is positive. Okay? Now, how do we keep going? Because we want to find the CoHeight of 195. We want to go all the way around. So what I want you to do is try and figure out what you think it will be. Okay? So let's see. Okay, so for 195, the CoHeight of 195 will be the same as 165. So notice at 165 it was negative 8.5. This should also be negative 8.5. And notice here how you should see a pattern. So let's fix the angle. What will the pattern be? So let's take a look. You see how this is negative 9 centimeters? There will be a reflection. So it's negative 8.5, negative 8.5. Negative 8 centimeters, negative 7 centimeters, negative 5 centimeters. This should be what? Let me zoom out a little bit. This should be negative 3 centimeters. And then what's the CoHeight of 270? Let's think about that for a second because this will be very important. If we go to 270, what is this CoHeight? Notice that this CoHeight has to be 0. There is no, you can't draw, there's no distance here. So this will be 0. Okay? And notice that these are all negative, right? Because here, the x values are negative on this side. And then what has to be over here? What do you know about the CoHeight once you get to quadrant 4? All these values have to be positive. So then you just kind of just go with it. What will be the CoHeight of 285? it'll actually be the same as 255, but just positive. So then this is positive 3 centimeters, and then the reflection happens again. So it's 3 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 7 centimeters, 8 centimeters, 8 point, wait, did I mess up? 3, 5, 7, 8, 8.5, oh yeah, and 9 centimeters. Okay? Yeah, okay, this is great. These measurements are correct. Okay. Now, what are we going to do with this CoHeight? We're going to do the same thing from yesterday, which was before. What did we do with the height? We graphed the height like this. Now, what do you think the CoHeight will look like when we actually plug in all the numbers? And that's what I want you to do. Take your time. And now notice over here, how are you going to put in these numbers? So once we go to CoHeight, okay, so we're at CoHeight. My bad. Let me zoom in. Okay. Now here, when we actually look at this piece of paper that we have, this was the x-axis. Now we're not going to use this. Here we're going to use CoHeight over here. So this will be our y-axis over here. So notice that 0 degrees, what is my CoHeight of 0? It was 9.5. So the first point we're going to draw is 0, 9.5, which should be somewhere over here. That's the first point. And then what about the next point? At 15, it's what? 8.5. So at 15 degrees, notice, you look at the x-axis, right? You see how it jumps from 0 to 30? So 15 is here, 45, 75, 90. What I want you to do is try and do this by yourself. Don't wait for me to do it. Okay. So at 15, it's at 8.5. So that should be here. It should be a little bit less. Yep. Let's see, at 30, it's at 8. So it should be exactly on it. At 45, it's 7. At 60, it's 5. At 75, it's 3. At 90, it's 0. And then what happens over here? At 105, it's negative 3. So at 105, it's negative 3, which should be here. Wait, my bad. Let me zoom in a little. Okay. Let me fix the angle. Okay. So then here, at 105, it's negative 3. At 120, it's negative 5. At 135, it's negative 7. At 150, it's negative 8. At 165, it's negative 8.5, and then negative 9 centimeters at 180. So notice that it kind of goes like this. Oh god, I messed up my lines. Okay. But this is the idea of the curve. Oh man. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now, how do you think, you see from 0 to 180, the graph is going down? Because the CoHeight, the distances of the CoHeight is going down. Then what do you think is going to happen visually from 180 to 360? How do you think the graph will look like? Well, let's see. From 180, this is negative 9, right? 195, it's negative 8.5. So we see it's kind of going back up. 210 is here. 225 is here. At 240, it's here. At 255, it's at negative 3, which is somewhere here. Then it goes to 0. So notice that it's going back up to 0. And then what's happening to the values from 285 to 360? These y values are going to increase back up. So it goes 3. So this is 3. At 300, it's 5. At 315, it's 7. At 330, it's 8. At 345, it's 8.5, and here. Okay. And then the graph should look something like this. And that's good. And this is exactly what the visual should be. And it won't matter. Remember, it doesn't matter which circle you have. Like, you could have a smaller circle, smaller circle or a larger circle, it doesn't matter. You should still have this as your CoHeight. Okie dokie, everybody. I hope this was okay. For the final page, where is the final page? Do I have it here? Final page. The question says, closing. How are the graphs of these two functions alike? How are they different? So why don't you try and compare the graph of the CoHeight and the graph of the height, and what do you notice is similar or different about them? And then for the next part here, it says for each point, P1, P2, P2, P3, all the way to P8 around the circle, it's saying draw segments that represent the CoHeight of each car, or if you're on a Ferris wheel. So which ones have positive CoHeights, which ones have negative CoHeights? Okay, so that's a good closing. And then list the points in order from increasing CoHeight to from smallest CoHeight first to the largest CoHeight last. So I'll show this in a separate video, but try and do the closing. Okay, I hope this helped. Enjoy.